Did I ever think I would fall in love with a book about two scientists falling in love? No, but here I am. Hello everybody, my name is Kayla and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys some book recommendations. This was highly requested, so here you go. I'm going to first be giving you some of my top 5 series or books that I have been into lately, and then I'm going to give you just some general recommendations based on genres, tropes, moods, etc. I'm basically just throwing a bunch of book recommendations your way, so hopefully you find something to read. Anyways, this clip is getting too long and I'm not going to want to edit this later, so let's get into the video. So up first, for some of my favorites to recommend to you, we have The Bridge Kingdom Duology by Danielle L. Jensen. I love this series so much. It is unreal. I have reread this series and these books probably at least 10 times. That's how much I love them. Now, The Bridge Kingdom is essentially a new adult fantasy romance. It's probably about 16 plus because in the second book there are some explicit scenes, so just be aware of that. So this series takes place in a high tension fantasy world and takes, for the most part, in a kingdom known as the Bridge Kingdom. That essentially is a kingdom of islands, and they have this bridge that is used for trade because the waters for most of the seasons are like crazy. So they're like, trade and exports and stuff. And so Laura is the daughter of a king. I forget the country, it doesn't matter. But she is raised alongside her sisters to become the strongest, most seductive, and the most skilled out of all of them. One is chosen, aka Laura ends up being chosen to go on to marry Aaron, the king of the Bridge Kingdom, in a political alliance for access and trade and things like that, right? Sounds kind of boring, arranged marriage, it's been done before. But wait! She is sent there to off him. That's right, she's on an assassination, find intel mission to take this kingdom down. She gets there and she's like, I'm gonna spy on everyone and I'm gonna burn this kingdom to the ground. And then Aaron is not what she expected, and she finds out that everything she was told for most of her life was pretty much a lie. You know how it goes. And she finds herself falling in love with the one man she was never supposed to love. This book is an amazing enemies to lovers because you get the fallout in the second book. You get them being enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers. And it is amazing. Up we have another fantasy duology that is also enemies to lovers, except this one is YA. So my next recommendations for one of my favorites is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Fazil. If I did not say that right, please correct me in the comments down below. This is one of the most expertly written enemies to lovers I have ever read, especially for YA purposes. The tension that exists between not only these characters, but other characters as well, is literally just it's amazing, okay? I was late to this game, and when I finally picked up this series, I was like, oh my god, I have been missing out. Like, when I tell you I could not put these books down, I mean it. I'm pretty sure I read this first book in like 2 or 3 sittings. So, We Hunt the Flame takes place in a vivid, lush fantasy world as well, inspired by Arabian culture and mythology, so you get a lot of that beautifully interwoven into the story, which I absolutely loved. Not only is this world beautiful, but it also has kingdoms on the brink of war and darkness spreading across the lands. So I'm going to do my best to explain this because, believe it or not, I find explaining books in detail very, very hard to do because there's just so much to explain and just so little meat in my brain. This book has a wide cast of characters but revolves around 2 main ones, and that's Saphira, which is known as the Hunter of the Ars. She lives in a little village on the edge of this like wasteland that is slowly spreading, and she's the only one that can venture in to find food and things for her community. Now the Ars takes a twist and she kind of gets this like higher calling to go save the magic in the realm and chase after this artifact that can help save everyone she loves. But plot twist. Other people are after it as well, and the super hot, traumatized prince who has been turned into a killer machine, Nasir, however you say it, is also after it. That's right, so they clash in the desert as they're both attempting to hunt down this magical object and kind of bring peace or war to the kingdom. Loyalties are tested, forbidden romance occurs, and the tension is so amazing. And this book also has a lot with mythology and lore and stuff, and sometimes that can get overwhelming, you know? Like, there's that whole trope where I see TikToks all the time, people being like picking up a fantasy book and not understanding anything about the world. This series is written so well that it never feels overwhelming. Like, there's so much to dive into, so much to explore, that every single time I pick it up, I again notice something new. However, it does not come off as like, oh my god, there's this big world and wars and mythology and I don't understand. Like, you get it. You get it. Like, it's just so smoothly written that I am in awe with this series. If you are looking for a YA fantasy to dive into, I highly, highly recommend We Hunt the Flame. Not enough people talk about this book because it is absolutely phenomenal. Read this series, please. Next, I have a new adult standalone called The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Yes, this is a contemporary new adult romance that is based off of Reylo and a Reylo fanfic. Now, I know what you're thinking, Kayla, what the heck? Just stay with me, just pay attention, okay? Give me a chance, okay? This is about two scientists falling in love. That's it. Essentially, what you need to know is this is about two scientists fake dating to get people off their back and for various reasons, and then they end up falling in love. This book is predictable. It's a little cringy at times, but is so addicting and so easy to read. It just makes my brain happy. Literally all the best tropes are in this book. Like, the amount of times I was like screaming and giggling like a little girl reading like a magazine, I was like, oh my god, this is so funny. When I tell you this book is amazing, I mean it. It's literally, the entire premise is just like a basic contemporary romance with some good smut about two scientists falling in love. There's science, there's chemistry, both in the lab and out of the lab. Listen, I don't really know how else to explain this book because the entire plot just revolves around them fake dating. Other than pick this up, you won't regret it. That's it. That's so sweet. That's literally all I have to say about this book, is that I never thought I would fall in love with a book about two scientists falling in love. But here I am. Up next, we have an urban fantasy kind of dystopian YA novel called All of Us Villains. If you liked The Hunger Games growing up and you were like me, and you were absolutely obsessed, Team PETA all the way, although Team Finnick is the supreme elite choice out of all of these to sim for, you're gonna like this. So this book takes place in the remote fantasy near future, like they have the same technology as us, you know, like timeline-wise, city of Evernath. I think that's how you say it anyway. And essentially every generations, all the founding families come together to compete in a tournament in the Blood Veil to the death, where they send the best, like, teenage, young adult child of their family to go compete for what is known as high magic. And essentially whoever wins has control over the flow of magic and is like the top dogs in this city for the next, like, generation until the next Blood Veil. So imagine the Hunger Games, but with magic, and it's a society where magic exists. It's like stored in rings. It's like a really, really cool system, and you follow a bunch of characters. And normally I hate books with like a super big point of view because I never like all the characters, and so I'm like, okay, just give me the next one, give me the next character, I don't care. But I loved reading every single point of view and perspective throughout this whole thing. And it wasn't confusing. Like, it was written well enough that each voice was unique that I didn't get confused, which happens a lot in books, even though I read a lot. So you would think that I would be good at reading books with like multiple point of views because it's like becoming more common, but that's besides the point. This book is just a wild ride from start to finish, and the quotes in this book are unreal. You can tell that that's one thing that I look for in books is quotes. Pick it up if you want. Live your best life. Alright, so now I'm going to move on and just give you some rapid fire suggestions and recommendations based off of genres, tropes, and feelings. If you want a dark new adult romance that takes enemies to lovers to the next level and takes place in a world where vampires are completely reimagined, you're going to want to pick up King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. That's right, vampires reimagined. It's high fantasy, new adult, 16 plus, check trigger warnings. If you want a duology that revolves around villains and extraordinary humans in society, you're going to want to pick up Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This book has got morally great characters. Most of them are villains and is literally insane. And if you're looking for a new adult fantasy, I would highly recommend picking up A Kingdom of the Wicked. It's got Italian folk magic and history mixed with deals with some of the princes of hell that happen to be very, very hot. Yeah. This is also the author of Stalking Jack the Ripper, so you know it's going to be good. A new adult or adult contemporary romance that will make you cry, read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Please check trigger warnings before you pick up this book. Literally the tagline thing is, sometimes the one who loves you is the one who hurts you the most. have a box of tissues handy. If you're looking for a suspenseful read to pick up that is set in an academy, you need to read Ace of Spades, okay? Thank me later. If you're in the mood for Shakespeare reimagined, you're gonna want to pick up These Violent Delights. Takes Romeo and Juliet and puts it in the 1920s glitz and glamour and crime of Shanghai. When I tell you this book tore me apart and put me back together again, I mean it. Next up, we have YA fantasy rapid fire recommendations. Up first, we have Crimson Bound, Little Red Riding Hood, but with more curses and lots of morally gray men to sim for. Next, we have The Glass Bear. If King Midas was a young princess and everything she touched turned to crystals, that's the prompt of this book. If you're in the mood for more of an urban fantasy mix of the real world and magic, I would recommend picking up Legendborn. This is a retelling of Arthur and the Legends of Camelot. And if you want a witchy, wholesome book about discovering yourself and magic of the seasons, pick up The Nature of Witches. A fast read, easy to get into, and it is a beautiful story. If you like the fallen angel trope vibe genre, pick up Hush Hush. It's an old series, but it's a classic in my mind, and if you have not read this and you enjoy reading, what are you doing? Trust me, you need to pick this up. And lastly, we have Ember in the Ashes. This series is so amazing. Be prepared to cry, be prepared to scream. This is one of my favorite fantasy series to recommend. In Ember in the Ashes, you can't go wrong with this. It's got enemies to lovers / forbidden romance, it's got intrigue, it's got wars, it's got amazing mythology, it's got everything you could need and want in a fantasy book. Alright everybody, so that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe down below and hit the bell icon to be notified every time I upload a video so you don't miss out. Down below, I'm going to have a link to my Beacons, which is basically a link you can take, or click, not take, and it'll bring you to a page that has all of my social media, a bunch of links just organized for you, so go check that out if you're interested on finding me on any platform or anything like that. Comment down below a book recommendation or a book that I recommended that you're like, wow, I'm gonna read that. Interested to know what you guys are liking. That's it. That's the outro. Okay. Bye? Why am I so mad at this?